Let us stand firm against any and all arbitrary authority that threatens the personal sovereignty of one or all. That which will not bend must break, and that which can be destroyed by truth should never be spared its demise. It is done. Hail Satan.
Attention students, class is in session.
Is it really though? Is class really in session? Because I'm looking around and I don't see many motherfuckers in class. I guess we'll figure that out and see if anybody shows up late. Welcome, degenerates and heathens and like-minded folks. My name is Bill, and welcome to Satanic Study Hall. We are back in class again for what was intended to be an amazing, groundbreaking, inspiring Walpurgisnacht Hexxenacht special. But like I said, there's nobody here in class, so I guess I'm going to make an attempt to do this on my own. So welcome, class is indeed in session. My name is Bill. I am a member of the Satanic Temple, and I'm also a member of Love City Satanist here out of Philadelphia. And today I am joined by absolutely nobody. So I guess we'll keep this introduction short and simple. What is Satanic Study Hall? Satanic Study Hall is a podcast that is supposed to have a rotating bench of degenerates and members of the Satanic Temple to join me in the hosting role here. But that clearly isn't the case today. We're a podcast that talks about Satanism from its inception to modern day. We dive into the news and pop culture when it comes to Satanism, the occult. We also check out references to Satanism and our Dark Lord in movies and music and books and everything that I had just mentioned. You see, my game is a little thrown off when I'm not joined by my peoples. But either way, that is who we are and what we do. We tend to talk some shit. We like to learn as we present. Satanic Study Hall doesn't present itself in any way, shape, or form as subject matter experts, but we do occasionally like to feature them. Some great episodes that we've posted up recently with La Carmina and Dr. John Scutlin, Stu DeHaan, Mason Hargett, Stephen Bradford Long, and the list keeps growing. We've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of really insightful, driven, smart people in this lovely little satanic community. And we continue to do so. We have episodes coming up with Simon Widdop that I hope everybody would recognize and appreciate Simon's work. It is very well known across the community. And we had a great conversation with Simon. So I hope you get a chance to enjoy that as well. What's on the plate for today? So like I said, we were going to dive in, and Veronica and Father Al and Dennis Morningstar and Johnny was supposed to even be in class today, but we're 1 out of 5 here for hosts. So I'm going to make the attempt to go through my research. It might get very boring. I don't know if I might just give up and start sketching in my sketchbook here and just talking shit. So bear with me. We shall see what happens. Other business to get out of the way. I guess never, ever, ever forget to check out our friends and all of their new stuff that they have available. First, Rhett over at darkartdepository.com and Sean over at Misty's Coventry. If you've heard the podcast before, you were very well aware of how talented and awesome they are and their product lines. Just search for Misty's, that's MHISTYS, Coventry, and you can look up everything Rhett's doing over at Dark Art Depository at darkartdepository.com. Now, we also launched a brand new fucking website. Before, our website just took you to our podcast hosting landing page where it had all of our episodes. But please go check out satanicstudyhall.com. It is in its very first little beta stage where we're open for feedback. We're just looking for anything that can help, make it look a little sharper any feedback you have, shoot us a message and let us know. We're very open to that. And you can do so at satanicstudyhall@gmail.com. And I guess Belial wanted to remind me that I truly wasn't alone here at the table. Belial is floating around the classroom, pissing everybody off and nipping at everybody's toes. So I guess at that point, I could say, how are you now? But I'll just let everybody know I'm doing good. I'm a little pissed off that no one showed up to class today, but we're going to push forward. Everything is moving great with Satanic Study Hall. Me personally, I'm in the middle of a pretty kick-ass career change, and I'm super excited about that. I am also super excited about my father's celebration of life, which is this Saturday, May 1st. And this podcast should be coming out on midnights between the 30th and the 1st to celebrate Walpurgisnacht and Hexennacht. So this holiday has dual meaning to me. Hoping to do a bonfire on the 30th and a nice celebration of life and remembrance, not only of my father, but through Walpurgisnacht and Hexxenacht, everybody whose lives were affected in any negative way because of pseudoscience, witch hunts, and the satanic panic. And that's going to be a recurring theme as you listen to me talk about those topics. So I guess I'm going to whip out my sketchbook and my notes here, and I guess I'll get to work. So bear with me.
Attention class, attention. Today we are being joined by 2 foreign exchange students from Germany. Say hello to Pete and Patrick, everybody.
Hey y'all, if you want to come sit over here, I'm kind of fucking bored. Everyone ditched me today.
Yeah, are you sure that's okay? It's like our first day and we've been a bit kind of all over the place. We've already had the principal Pam just have a massive go at us just for being there. And I've been told to look out for a guy called Dennis that I need to avoid. I heard he's a bit of a fucking deviant.
Wow, okay. So it looks like they gave you the lay of the land. Yeah. Come on over, take a fucking seat. Now everyone ditched me. We've got all these empty chairs at the table. And I'm, like I said, I was about to hit stop. We record a little fucking satanic podcast in class every now and then. By the way, I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Bill. Thank you for kind of hanging out. Who are y'all?
Yeah, my name's Pete. I'm one of the foreign exchange students who's coming over. I'm from London, England, but yeah, I live in Germany. I live in Berlin, but we're just over here, looking away at the world and seeing how other Satanists do it. Because yeah, I'm a member of TSD myself.
Yeah, same as him, just not quite. A little bit different. So I'm Patrick. I'm also from Germany. Yeah, also part of the TSD.
No shit. So there's a reason that you came to Satanic Study Hall, looks like, huh?
Yeah, we're just a little bit of learning, broadening our horizons. We're spreading our knowledge and getting some new knowledge.
Well, good shit. Well, thank y'all for wearing your masks. None of these other fucking degenerates in class like to take it seriously. So appreciate that shit. Hail science.
Hail science.
Oh, yeah. By the way, this is Belial. I don't know if Principal Pan told you about Belial, but normally he makes people that visit study hall sign a contract or a waiver in case you get bit. But that is our Baphomet, Belial. He's a little fucker. So just keep an eye on your feet, your ankles, and your toes because they're fair game when he's running around.
Yeah. Oh, no, I forgot to bring treats.
Yeah, Veronica's keeps him well fed with the horny goat weed, that's for sure. So from Germany or living in Germany, that kind of makes me a little bit excited. So what we were originally going to do was talk about, Walpurgisnacht. As you know, as temple members, Walpurgisnacht and Hexennacht, that day in the history of such is coming up. And we were going to cover it, talk about it, then kind of, I don't know. We did some research, or at least I did. I guess everyone else didn't, which is why they're not here. But we were going to talk about it and kind of explore Walpurgisnacht, its history, how it's celebrated in modern day, how it transitioned or how it's been transitioned from a TST holiday perspective into Hexennacht, and what these 2 days mean, and kind of nerd out a little bit. What do you guys think?
Yeah, sounds good. I think we can add a few things to that.
Yeah, it's something we know a little bit about because, it's close to home.
It most certainly is. So I guess before we get started, you briefly introduced yourself. I guess we'll start with Pete. If you want to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you're comfortable with sharing.
Sure. So I'm Pete. I've lived in Germany, lived in the capital city, Berlin, for about 3.5 years. I've been a Satanist, definitely fully identifying one for maybe nearly 2 years now, but it's always been there, I think. I just didn't know it. Yeah, growing up, going to Catholic schools and having certain things shoved in my face, I was always destined to be pushed into the exact opposite direction. A lot of soul searching over the years, life being up and down, and one day I stumbled across the Satanic temple and everything seemed to make sense. And now I'm reasonably committed to Satanism, and I live and breathe it.
I think you'll fit in well in Satanic Study Hall. We just recently recorded with, they weren't in Study Hall, but we had a virtual presentation from Simon Widdop out of the UK. I guess he popped the Satanic Study Hall Foreign Exchange Student cherry.
I know Simon, so.
Oh, okay.
That's a coincidence, eh?
So, y'all have definitely been around. So, Simon, we have an episode coming out with Simon very, very soon. If not, it might even be ready at the same time this one is. Now that we're going to move forward with it, this kind of gets me excited. So what about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Patrick. I've always lived in Germany. Not in Berlin or any other one of the big cities, actually somewhere in the southern Bumfuck province, somewhere near basically on a hill. That's a pretty big hill. Okay. And a very small house. It looks like a witch's house. So yeah, appropriate for that, yes. I always had a little bit of a problem with basically our religious classes in school. Actually, I never really fit into that. So at one point I was pretty interested in paganism and that stuff. I'm still am a bit. And sometime a few years ago I came across one of those stories in the news about the Baphomet statue. I was impressed. It was such an amazing idea. I just loved the whole idea. Sometime later I saw the documentary Hail Satan, loved it. And that just kind of pushed me into this direction where I am now here suddenly I just kind of slid into this. I don't know how I got here, but I am here.
That's kind of how, that seems to be the theme of, meeting, people within the Satanic Temple or people that, introductions to Satanism, especially when, the whole exposure comes through the Baphomet story and the Ten Commandments suit, or the giant babies that were put on display in the movies, some of those protests and whatnot. And then, some of that's definitely, it served its purpose. It got a lot of our attention. We've talked about on the podcast how, Mason Hargett, reeled in a lot of nerds that hang out with us in study hall as well through the normie Satanism, the bow tie Satanists. And, he drew a whole different kind of, and made a lot of people feel comfortable about not, necessarily wearing black and being covered in tats and piercings, but still, being comfortable with being vocal about identifying with, the seven tenets and viewing them as deeply held religious beliefs. So, I am curious though, being a member of the Satanic Temple and identifying as a Satanist in Germany, I think that has its own set of issues, doesn't it? Aren't, this church and state pretty fucking intertwined in Germany?
Oh, yeah, they have they're pretty in love, the two of them there in Germany, but not many people associate it who aren't living in Germany. It's not obvious until, you get here and you live around it, and you find out that you potentially, if you've ever been baptized or confirmed, that suddenly you've got an extra tax in your wage packet, or you don't realize that, in politics, the church is direct.
Wait, did you just say extra tax? Like a fucking Jesus tax?
A Jesus
Something
tax.
along that way, yes.
A Jesus tax that they think that's still relevant from like the 18th century, around then, that to protect the church in case of in times of turmoil and so on, in case any buildings or any churches were burnt to the ground, that the government had, or at the time the ruling classes had the money to rebuild it. And for some reason, they think in 2021 that's still something that needs to be on the books. But I think maybe the church themselves have a little influence because, it's not the church who pays the bishops, it's the government. So
the whole thing about the church tax is actually a bit weird. Basically, you get born, your parents, or in my case, my grandparents, had the opinion that the child has to be baptized. And suddenly you are on some form of list. And at a point when you finally are all grown up, you earn your own money, you look at your sheet of paper, it says all that, and suddenly there's something like a church tax. Yeah, I have to pay such and such amount every month to the church, which I don't associate with in any way. And then the best thing, or maybe the worst thing, is if you want to leave that or to stop that, if you don't want to pay that anymore, well, you actually have to pay something more. So you have to make you have to make an appointment at the mayor's office and have to pay a little fee. It's not much actually, but still, I don't know. It's kind of a dick move. So like, oh, you don't want to pay us more money? Yeah, well, guess you have to pay some money.
So either way, you're fucked. Either way, they're getting paid. Either way, they are getting fucking paid.
Yep.
You got to keep those churches looking pristine, right?
Oh yes, I need it.
They most certainly do. Fucking all the landscaping involved. Shit.
I mean, there's a lot of polish to buy in those churches in Bavaria to get that gold really shining. So, and you've got to keep a lot of people quiet at the same time. So it helps to have the money.
So let's talk about Walpurgisnacht. Fuck it. Let's just jump right in. We've taken care of all our business. Y'all seem chill. I'm glad you decided to come over here and not sit with those douchebags over there. You don't want to talk to those kids over there in the corner. You'll see why if you hang out long enough. But enough about them. They don't like it when I talk about them. So Walpurgisnacht, very German sounding. And from, the research that I did, it's got, its roots in Germany. So, when y'all sat down, you said you knew a little bit about it. So I don't know if we'd like to progress from, history to modern day when we cover topics here in study hall. So can either one of you, Peter, Patrick, tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, living in Germany, what Walpurgisnacht is and who this Saint Walpurga is?
If we start with the celebration of the Walpurgisnacht, there's a little theme there with pre-Christian holidays and celebrations, and that is that we actually don't know a whole lot about it because back then people didn't write it down. So we only have a little bit of it. And of course, Saint Walpurga doesn't actually have anything to do with witches. Saint Walpurga was a Anglo-Saxon nun, the daughter of Richard the Pilgrim. When he and his sons made a pilgrimage to Rome, he left his daughter, like 10 or 11 years old, I think, in a nunnery. Apparently, she became a very well-known nun. She was apparently also performed miracles, which I think you could consider witchcraft, but
not in the church, of course.
No, not in the church.
Under the umbrella of Jesus. There's no witchcraft.
That is okay. When a witch heals someone, it's onto the pyre with her burner. If a nun heals someone, oh my God, it's a miracle of God. So basically like this. She is, I think, the patron saint of sailors. For when she traveled from England to the mainland. The boat got into a storm, and she apparently spent the whole trip across the channel praying for the boat to not sink, and it didn't sink, so it was apparently a miracle. She also healed people or performed miracle healings. And at one point, she actually, I think this was her most impressive feat, she calmed down a rabid dog, which was a miracle.
The original dog whisperer.
The dog whisperer, yes. Wow, that's impressive. She calmed down a rabid dog. I mean, that's in itself worth canonization, right?
Yeah. The whole association with the Walpurgisnacht or the Hexennacht came when she was canonized on 1st of May, which is a little bit of a theme with Christianity. When there's a pagan ritual or a pagan pre-Christian celebration, they just go stand there, stamp on it, and claim it's theirs. Basically the same here.
I mean, that sounds like what we did in America. So yeah, hey. But yeah, I'm sorry we are responsible for St. Walpurga in the UK. Germans came over to us, and then we send it back.
Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, you could have sent someone more fun. I think she wasn't very fun, actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably work some magic with some snake oil, right?
Snake oil, rabbit, dog, saliva. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's near enough. But yeah, so but in terms of like the evidence, in terms of her fighting witchcraft and things, I think that kind of just comes out of gossip, really, because there's actually very little fact or I don't know if any of what she did was necessarily fact. There's no direct connection to her playing a part in casting out witches.
Casting out witches, casting out evil. So the suggestion is actually that this was part of the celebration way before she was canonized into it, and it kind of just rubbed off onto her. Because there are a few traditions still in Germany that are around basically casting out evil spirits, casting out evil and all of that. In some places they do it with whips. So basically a few people dressed up in really funny costumes run around with whips and just whip them all around the place, making as much noise as possible to basically draw out the evil and cast it out of the village, city, and anything.
God, what is it with whips? Krampus and whips and his birchwood sticks, and then Romulus and Remus and Lupercalia running around and whipping the women for fertility's sake. And here we are whipping fucking cracking whips to fend off witches. Man, I'm sensing a theme here.
Oh, yeah. I think you can't really cast out an evil spirit with, I don't know, a bunch of flowers. I mean, maybe. I have never tried, so I don't know.
That's right. Fuck it.
Some flowers stink, so, you know. But yeah, and as well as whipping after setting the fires and so on, you have to, there's traditions of running around your house 7 times, and apparently that helps ward off the witches as well. But yeah, every crack of the whip or a holy bell, at the highest point in the village, because apparently magic is most powerful the higher up you are. So the higher up you are, the better you are to fend off those damn witches.
So that whole concept of magic being more powerful as far as on an increased elevation kind of, helps explain, things that were happening on Walpurgisnacht, as far as how it was celebrated, as far as my research said, on the Brocken. I guess isn't that where, everyone said that the witches would get together and perform these rituals and dance with the devil. I mean, I guess that's a pretty high level way of looking at it, but can you tell me a little bit more about that?
A few things about the whole story with the Brocken. A lot of its association with the Walpurgisnacht are probably an invention by Goethe. Goethe has written a few interesting pieces, his Faust 1 and 2, and also a ballad, I think, that was called the First Walpurgisnacht, all associate the Brocken or the Blocksberg with the Walpurgisnacht as the place where the devil is dancing, where Lilith and her witches are congregating and having just a really good time, apparently.
Yeah, I heard that they go around and witches dance in a circle around the fire with their backs to each other, and then they kiss the devil's buttocks.
It's like a straight up kiss my ass club. All right, that's a sense of endearment for sure.
Yeah, but that's where they also marry the devil after, and then he draws the witches together, and they gives them a mark, and it gives them the ability to do magic. So you get your power from, I suppose, it's selling your soul to the devil in that respect. But yeah, Goethe and Faust completely big time made Walpurgisnacht have that connection with Hexennacht and witches and the devil. I think that has a huge part of it.
So outside of, that association with the Brocken and kissing the devil's ass and all of that, how is Walpurgisnacht celebrated in Germany?
Well, it depends on where you live. Up in the north, there are still a lot of bonfires and pyres and celebrations like that, where you just burn as big as a fire as you actually can. Down here in the south, it's not that big a deal, I think. Sometimes there are little smaller events for that. Of course, if you go to the Harz, where the Brocken is, the Harz region, then there's apparently pretty big tourism around that night. If you look up tourist guides for that region, Walpurgisnacht is always a very big topic for them. There are a few towns and villages around the Brocken that have especially bigger celebrations for that. People have built. I think I recently saw a little. I think I thought really cool. Somebody built a longhouse after old Germanic and Viking manner, where they also celebrate Walpurgisnacht in, and apparently it looks pretty nice. They have carved all those intricate designs into it. It's pretty rad.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, and here in Berlin, it has more of a political connection. Again, with the tradition of fire, but there's an area in Prenzlauer Berg called the Mauer Park. So Mauer means wall, and that was probably the most notorious death strip of the Berlin Wall, splitting west from east, and where you could definitely get killed from crossing over it. And in that park on the 30th of April, they before May Day, it's a very leftist thing to set bonfires and things. But also with the political connection, if you go back to the 70s, Walpurgisnacht was massively involved with connected to kind of the women's liberation movement, really, and the connection between witches were taking over as a symbol of power, a role model, politically, sexually charged. Witches were often misunderstood, independent women who were healers and intelligent, wise women. And so they took that back. And in the late 70s, in Berlin, women took to the streets for the first time with the slogan, "Women are taking back the night" on Walpurgisnacht. Because, witches were independent of men. So you drive them away. And it was a way of standing up to the patriarchy. It was a big revolt. And so actually, historically, from a political standpoint, Walpurgisnacht is a night for women, the night to be role models, because there's not many role models in history that of rebellion that women could take hold of. So why not take the ultimate, rebel, the witch? And they're and women take their knowledge and their power and make it normal again. So I think symbolically it has it's celebrated through that protest as well, emancipation through the witch.
That's a really fucking beautiful way of looking at it. Especially as you look through just how different regions and different parts of the world have but celebrate the holiday. I mean, for instance, one thing that I looked at was in the Czech Republic, they literally, burn a giant witch. They light huge bonfires up to 8 meters tall with a witch figure built and burnt in the center on top of the largest hill in town. Young people gather around, and then obviously sudden black and dense smoke formations are cheered as, being symbolic of a witch flying away. And then, and we'll get to how, it's progressed and, the whole Hexennacht thing with TST in a little bit. I think they said from my research in Lincolnshire that Walpurgisnacht is observed in a lot of rural communities. It was until the second half of the 20th century with a tradition of hanging cowslips to ward off evil.
Okay. Yeah. So, and similar, like the traditions of Walpurgisnacht and the 1st of May were very heavily taken on in the Isle of Man. So the Isle of Man's a bit of a stuck-up, tax evading little island off the UK, but at the same time, it has a lot of pagan tradition. But as it's on that side of the country, in between, they're an island as well. You take on history of like Beltane and stuff all around that date. There were lots of things, but and flowers have always played a massive point in that area or whatever. So you hang the cowslips as well, and you light fires and food.
I've got to ask, what the fuck is a cowslip?
Yeah, what is that? I have no idea what it is.
A cowslip is a flower, as far as I'm aware.
A flower?
Yeah, no, it's definitely. So it's like a little yellow flower. It's a print.
I just thought like some part of a cow, like maybe.
I thought cow tongue.
No. It's flower. So cowslip's a type of primrose.
Okay, that's already way. I mean,
yeah, I don't even know.
A nice little flower wreath somewhere. That sounds nice, neat. I thought they were hanging some. I don't know. They butchered a cow and just hang some part of her somewhere.
Just slip it outside the window or some shit.
No, it's as boring as a flower, man.
And I know a lot of the celebrations too across the world kind of, because it's May Day, kind of coincide with different May Day celebrations in certain parts of the world, kind of mash them together, different, like we were talking about rural communities and whatnot. But you're talking about different parts of Germany celebrating it different ways. Is there like a certain unique way outside of what the two of you are familiar with personally that you've heard about that might sound a little fucked or a little weird?
Fucked or weird? That's a bit hard. I mean, a bit of unique, maybe. I don't know. Especially May Day is for some reason the day that a lot of people and a lot of clubs, associations go hiking and drinking. The hiking part isn't that important. It's more the drinking, I think. At least when I went with my grandfather, it was like hiking for an hour and then drink for 5.
That's a good way to celebrate it.
Most of the other fucked up things in Germany and religious festivals, that all comes around Easter, much more so than around then. So you're saying that 12 out of 16 states it's illegal to dance in public on Good Friday. So no fun, and I think even in Berlin it's not illegal, but between 4 a.m. and 9 p.m. no dancing in public.
Let's talk about that for a second. That fucking intrigues me. You just piqued my interest there. Not to go off on some weird tangent. I don't know where this is going to go, but so you can't dance in most places lawfully on Good Friday. Okay, and it's kind of fucked. What else? If you can't dance, there's got to be other restrictions.
Well, over 700 films that can't be put on the TV or broadcast publicly. So Life of Brian being at the top, and then anything from Mad Max, RoboCop, all the way to Mary Poppins, that evil woman.
Mary fucking Pop. Oh yeah, because she's kind of a witch, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's quite pompous. I appreciate that and stuff, whatever. But this is out of respect for Jesus.
Oh, because nobody else can be practically perfect in every way other than our Lord Jesus Christ, right?
Exactly. You don't want to take, he had a bit of a rough day on that Friday, and you don't want to take that away from him, really. That
why is it even called Good Friday if it wasn't actually that good for him? I mean, I would call it Bad Friday. I mean, being killed and
I guess it's good for good for his followers, right? He gave his life. He gave his life.
Come on, he gave a long weekend.
I
mean, come on.
He gave a fucking 3-day weekend that I have yet to see in 2021.
Everyone forgets that, like, okay, he died on the Friday, but he only had 2 days off. He came back on the Sunday or the Monday, or whatever. So, like, why do people think he gave his life? Because he got it back.
Yeah, I really never fucking thought of that. That's like one of those fucking mind blown memes, you know. It's, I can take that on a whole mental journey. You know, I know basically, you know, and the other theme that I saw around the world when researching how it's celebrated around the world is basically just the celebration of spring, casting the cold and the darkness behind, and embracing the spring. And I think, Pete, you had mentioned it before, that it's halfway point between spring and summer, right?
Yeah, halfway between the equinoxes. So halfway between spring and the summer equinox. So it's when everything's coming alive again, really. Spring's taking its hold. Things are getting warmer. Things are reducing. And also it's a perfect time for things like ritual, back in pagan times, that you want your livestock to flourish and your crops to grow. And there's a weird little scientific thing. So obviously burning things was a huge thing back then, and you'd burn your torches in a sacrificial kind of, not sacrificial, in a ritualistic way. The torches that you used to also then light the fire at home. So you have a spiritual fire as soon as that, to kind of be representative of what you've just been through. But also the ashes. So the ashes you would cover yourself in ashes in some traditions. Also, you'd throw it into the soil as a, because there's something spiritual about that ash. Well, scientifically, that ash helps the ground fertilize big time. So there's a direct connection that you could see why it seemed pretty magical that suddenly your soil was super fertile. From this magical ash. But actually, it's just now we know it's basic science. That, yeah.
It generally is just fucking science, and these lovely little miracles, you know, miracles. No,
yeah,
it's some Walter White and Bill Nye shit right there.
Yeah, and ICP.
Yes. Are there any magnets involved?
Magnets. Yeah, exactly. How the fuck?
Fucking magnets. How do they work?
Fuck Pearl Jam.
Fun fact, I dislocated both of my kneecaps at an ICP show at the Electric Factory in Philadelphia in full Juggalo face paint.
And you went to hospital, I assume?
No, I drove, fuck it. I drove drunk, poor decision, don't do it, children, home, and woke up the next day, somehow got to my room, and they popped out and popped in and tore all the ligaments.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I woke up the next day, hungover as all hell, not able to move, like arthritic, can't bend your knees, like everything, like a rubber band had been wrapped around my kneecaps 1,000 times. Like, it was horrible. I had 3 giant tubes of liquid drawn out of both knees. It was fucking nuts.
Nice. I mean, to be fair, I've seen those documentaries on those Juggalo fests. By the sounds of it, you got off quite lightly.
Oh yeah, I mean, they have fucking UFC style fucking fights with Juggalo fans. I mean, they have like WWE wrestling matches there because, you know, they actually wrestled for a long time. How the fuck did we start talking about ICP?
Talked about miracles, man.
Oh yeah, miracles. Fucking magnets and all of that. So we talked about, we covered a decent amount so far. So let's, if we can, is there anything that we missed from a historical perspective before we do move on? Any historical points, anything we missed, like about the Brocken or how it's celebrated, or, you know, Walpurgisnacht's roots?
I'd like to add something to that, actually, now that I think about it. The way Pete, talked about the way the feminist movement, took the image, the label of witches, and basically used it for themselves. I think that's, there are some parallels to how we use Satanism, or how we use the label Satanist.
Oh yeah.
Basically, you have these, you are being labeled by some person with a negative label, in this case, a Satanist or a witch. And basically, instead of I don't know, defend yourself against this, or basically trying to not be that. You basically take this label and turn it into something of your own. That's actually pretty nice.
No, that was very well said, and it's kind of like a perfect segue into where we're going as far as how this day and Walpurgisnacht and this all the symbolism involved in the stories and the history have been made relevant in modern day Satanism, and that began I believe but it began from a modern day perspective with Anton LaVey's making the Church of Satan official. I believe Walpurgisnacht and Hexennacht is the birthday of the Church of Satan.
Yeah, in 1966. I know, yeah, and written in the Satanic Bible is that date. And yeah, Walpurgisnacht is, as well as your birthday, one of the most important Satanic holidays that you must observe.
And I mean, and it's cool. And one thing I think we didn't mention too that I read in my research was, this date, it was also symbolic from all the reasons that we mentioned, but it was also believed when, the veil between, life and death was the thinnest. From an occult standpoint, it was believed that was when, with the rituals and the burning of the fires and all, everything that everyone believed that was happening with all the witchcraft and shit, that's, what enabled, the devil to emerge was because that day, from an occult standpoint, was when that veil was the thinnest. And I think that was one of the reasons too that Anton LaVey chose it as the inception date for the Church of Satan as well.
Yeah, it's the Halloween of spring in that respect. Yeah, when again the veil is thin at that point. And I think it makes a lot of sense in modern Satanism to have chosen them, and with the connections, and I think definitely with the symbolism from Faust and everything combined into that, bringing the supernatural and the romantic and the dramatic into that one kind of place that you can take on as your own.
Attention staff and students. The Satanic Study Hall podcast is not affiliated with any other podcast or organization. None. Zero. The views and opinions expressed on the podcast are ours and ours alone. Hail Satan.
Now, how one thing I wanted to ask too is I really didn't pick too much up about this outside of the names being the same and just translated differently. So we talked about LaVey and why he chose it and whatnot, but so it's from a Satanic Temple perspective. Hexennacht is one of the celebrated holidays for TST. Now, from the way TST chooses to celebrate Hexennacht appears to be a complete inversion of, the origins, the whole, celebrating Saint Walpurgis chasing away the fucking witches on the Brocken and stuff that really, like you had mentioned before, there's really no evidence of that ever really being the case outside of, a miracle worker and a healer of which, she went to school for. So the way the Satanic Temple celebrates this is it's remembrance, remembering those whose lives were, ruined through pseudoscience and the Satanic Panic and the witch hunts, and celebrating their lives and also raising awareness around that, and that's, as we all know, that's, the premise of Gray Faction is fighting pseudoscience and bringing to light and publicly, calling out these fucked up therapists and pseudoscience driven psychologists that still insinuate this satanic panic that's going on. But I guess I'll ask the both of you, what are your thoughts on how TST celebrates this and how it is kind of appears to be an inversion of, the original celebrating chasing the witches away?
It's appropriate in many ways, because I think using the term Hexennacht and that whole witches celebrating, on the Brocken, and it comes into a place of people traditionally seeing spring from a non-Christian perspective and stuff. That's kind of maybe the celebratory side. And then on the other side, I think you need to take a date and you could use it as remembrance. So it's a celebration, in Christian form, that we're celebrating someone who was apparently against witchcraft and did, her magic powers to ward off the evil and stuff. And we know that's absolute bullshit. And in Germany, so little people know how bad it was here in terms of the witch hunts. So I think it's massively appropriate because, so we associate Salem and we associate England with the witch hunts. 500 to 1,000 people died in England, 25 at Salem. No one knows, and the German government have still not apologized. Around 50,000 people, 80% women, 20% men, were tortured and killed in the name of the witch hunts in Germany. And no one
Holy fuck.
So I don't think there is a more appropriate night in terms of battling pseudoscience and so on from a festival, festivities that are inherently German to take over that night and make a point. I just think the world needs to know Germany's involvement in all of that.
And you're absolutely right. And I'll enhance that. And I mean, I'll even add links in the show notes when we release this episode as far as raising awareness. Because again, you don't read about that in history books. That shit is not spoon fed to you in a voluntary educational form. And that shit, that's some, and again, I think that's just like you said, what's important about this holiday. And it's just from, my own personal Satanism and, taking my membership with TSTN involvement seriously as, the tenets are deeply held religious beliefs to me. And that's, remembering and not just remembering, but advocating. And, it's one thing we like to do with the podcast is be a voice for the voiceless or raising awareness for fuckery and the disenfranchised and shit that, people just may not know. And I think that's a great example. In comparison with the things that happened in Salem when the witch trials were horrible, but, from a number standpoint, like we're talking exponentially, more, in Europe alone. And that's scary and it's fucking ridiculously sad. So taking this opportunity to remember and, use the voice or, any personal empowerment that any of our listeners may even have to speak up and, be a voice and keep a watchful eye on, cases where, the community might need to speak up and stand up for a situation as the cases continue to emerge. And I'm out of breath. That was like a fucking huge ass run on sentence. If that made any sense at all. But, Patrick, what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Especially in regards to the remembrance of those people who were basically killed for the most stupidest reason you could fucking imagine. Especially in that way, I think it's pretty important, and it's a great way to remember those people, especially to make sure that it doesn't happen again, or at least that it's a bit more in the open. Because we have those weird therapists and other people who basically misdiagnose their patients because they want this weird global unholy satanic government to exist so they can, I don't even know why they want to do this. So the witch hunts were pretty crazy. You could be killed for so many stupid reasons. Many women were killed because, for example, they were healers or basically just knew basic way around herbs and stuff like that. Others were midwives. I think the word is midwives. Basically, when a child was born with any form of disability, it was pretty likely that the parents were going to blame the midwife, because the midwife was the evil witch who had a pact with the devil and basically sacrificed the healthiness and the well-being of the child to Satan in exchange for her powers. This is a pretty common thing back then. But actually, a lot of people, like the most of them, were killed for petty reasons. Basically, neighbors having problems with another neighbor, so they say, hey, I saw that neighbor flying a broom.
But also,
there were husbands who actually got sick of their wives and basically just said, hey, she bewitched me to marry her and she's a witch, so please get rid of her. They just made a trial and killed her.
But also, it's just, I think I was saying earlier about female empowerment and stuff. people then were suspect of a woman who was independent and on her own. Why doesn't she need a man? Why doesn't she want children? And so,
right. If she was wealthy, that was also a thing. Like, where did she get that wealth? And also, it was pretty practical because when she was killed, that wealth was probably going missing. It's weird.
Church tax, as we were talking about before. So, yeah.
Circled right back to that church tax, yes. We've talked about, solitary and communal Satanism and the exchange between the two and a balance on previous episodes. And again, it's you find the way that you are the most fulfilled from, a celebration or a remembrance standpoint. Some ways from our research that we found that some TST members in the past have celebrated is one example was having a feast with mead and sparkling wine, or having a gray mass. There's also the most popular one that seems to be, it's something that you can do on your own, or, if you have the opportunity to do it with like-minded Satanists as well, would be a destruction ritual with bonfires, music, dance, and or, just, celebration. And obviously, if that were a destruction ritual, I would definitely center around a moment of, or a long moment of silence and reflection on that evening. This was really important. I think that we did this, not only, for me personally, but, for, us as Satanists, and remembering all of the countless lives and being aware that there are so many more outside of what we've heard about just in the satanic panic and the witch hunt here in the States. And there's so much more to become aware about and potentially advocate for if you feel to do as such. So I got to ask, in your journey of Satanism, have either one of you found or celebrated Hexennacht in the past? And if so, was there any particular things that you've done?
I think last year was reasonably educational in terms of like finding out more about it. I think relatively young in my kind of 1.5 to 2 years as Satanist, but also I think it's a relatively young kind of celebration for TST Satanists. I can't speak on Church of Satan on kind of using, the 30th of April and 1st of May as a holiday. So I think it's something that it's going to like develop more. I think it feels like it's a super young thing right now. And I think that I'm enjoying learning about how each year I'm going to make that bigger. And I think next year we would love as Satanists here in Germany to be able to go and celebrate on the Brocken itself, to go there when this pandemic bullshit hopefully is, been and gone, and we can get together and we can get on that mountain and celebrate together. We can have a ritual together as friends and to say Hail Satan and Hail Science.
It sounds like a good fucking time. I hope I win the lottery. I've been playing the lottery lately. If I do, I'm going to be right there by your side.
You'll be welcome.
Anytime. Belial might have to stay. I think there might be a few charges.
I don't know if we'd be able to get the horny goat weed past customs, and that's all he fucking lives on. So,
yeah, and you don't want to get in an argument with German customs.
I think there will be enough goats. I know a guy who's usually he's a regular at the Brocken when it's Walpurgisnacht, and this guy has goats, so he brings his goats.
You are a well-connected man. I did not know that about you. So yeah. You've got a goat guy. Yeah,
he's got a goat guy. Dwight Schrute had a shirt guy, and Patrick's got a goat guy, and that's a valuable resource to have.
Normally, when we used to before the pandemic, long time ago, I know, celebrated Walpurgisnacht, it was usually, I think, pretty classic music, a big fire, a lot of people dancing, having fun, drinking something or nothing, depending on your preference in that case. Destroying something was also pretty fun. I once made a puppet of straw, a straw puppet. I called him Heinrich Kramer, and we burned him.
Nice.
Just in case this joke doesn't drop. Heinrich Kramer was the guy who wrote the Malleus Maleficarum, the witch's hammer.
Yep.
So I thought it fitting to burn this fucker.
Fucking right. Hell yeah. I'm going through my notes and this is completely out of line, but I wanted to bring it up too, just to see if y'all knew anything about it. Cause it's got, some, I guess it's fact, apparently, is what they called the Brocken Spectre. Apparently, at a certain height, on the Brocken, on one of the peaks, I'm not sure, cause I think there's 3 of them at a certain time of day. With the sun and at that elevation, it projects your shadow onto the lower lying clouds, and your shadow's 1,000 times bigger than it normally would be on the sidewalk as you're walking down the street. And apparently this scared the shit out of somebody so bad that they actually were ascending and turned around and thought it was a fucking monster, and fell to their death. Have you heard anything about this specter, and the science behind it, or if there's a certain time of day or anything about it?
Actually, I have no idea about the science behind it. I just saw a picture of it once. Basically, this weird shadowy figure in the clouds, how this just... Looking at this picture, I can totally understand how this has, caused various amounts of Aberglaube and... superstition,
mystique, yeah. And that's the thing, it definitely does, like it's that, it gives it that whole surreal occultish type, mystical, like a superstitious fucking vibe. And that's, what do people do when it comes to things that they can't explain? It's, it's either God or the fucking devil. That those are the go-to responses when people don't, care to, or I guess you didn't know science at that point, but I'd be pretty fucking scared if I saw something like that too, because the pictures that I saw were pretty fucking, if I turned around and saw that, I'd be letting go. And
it's like rings of colored light, really. It's like a crazy, I think it's technically called a glory as well. So it has that kind of insane, I suppose it's real life hallucinogenic drugs, really.
Maybe something funny to add, actually, which the witch hunts and the Malleus Maleficarum earlier. I actually got a copy of that just out of curiosity, because I have read a lot about it. Basically, it's this manual for how to discover a witch, how to hunt her down, how to torture her into admitting that she is a witch, and then how to kill her. I just wanted to know what is actually written in this book, because it actually, it caused a lot of death and a lot of pain for a lot of people. Of course, Christian apologists always use this, always don't tire to tell you, well, it was never actually endorsed by the Catholic Church.
Well, except for King Jack, who used it and decided to go hell for leather with it in England. So.
Yeah, sure. But that's the thing. They often say it wasn't endorsed, so it wasn't the fault of the church. But they used it. So, yeah, sorry. So I got this book, and my girlfriend just randomly opens a page, looks at the headline, and basically just the first headline that pops up is basically just how the witches witch the dicks of people away they don't like.
Oh, see, she thinks you're conjuring dick spells.
I don't know. Apparently, this Heinrich Kramer guy had some problems with his sexuality, or maybe he lost his dick at some point. That's why he claimed that witches just witchcrafted it away. It's weird. The whole book, I haven't even read it completely, but the whole book is so...
That's a hell of a first headline to read. It reminds me of that one song from the 90s. Who did that song? Detachable Penis. You ever hear that? Yeah, it's a crazy fucking song. But yeah, that's a wild first impression. I can only imagine the double or triple take you got after she read that headline, for sure.
I mean, it speaks volumes about why this guy wrote the fucking book. He's clearly had a really bad experience with a woman who didn't like him. And now he's blaming witches for the fact that he couldn't get it up.
Probably. There is, I think that I don't know where I have read that, but there was something actually, historians discussing why he wrote it and what inspired him, and pretty often the point came up that he apparently didn't really have any luck with the women in his life, and
You know, this sounds like one of those video game side quests. Like one of these times, you know, we got to link up as with the wonderful world of Zoom or Google Hangouts or something, and maybe it could be a Patreon episode, but really fucking explore this guy. And the driving forces or the alleged driving forces behind this work, and that lovely introductory headline, because I feel inspired. I think we could turn this into an episode.
Why the hell are you saying the things you did?
Fucking right. Well, we got a few, I think we got a few minutes before the bell's going to ring. I don't know where y'all are headed to after study hall, but we're going to capitalize on the last few minutes we have sitting together here at this table. There are a couple things that I do like to go over before we wrap things up here in class. First is shouting out everybody who supports us on Patreon. Something's fucky with the Wi-Fi here in class, so I don't have the updated list, but I do want to thank everybody who has taken the time out to either consider or click that subscribe button and support the podcast. You're one of the driving forces behind keeping the bills paid, and keeping some and helping with some innovative ideas. So we really appreciate that. So hail Satan to everybody who listens, but and especially those who are supporting us over there on Patreon. You can still follow Satanic Study Hall on Facebook. We don't really do much with our Facebook, and that's intentional. You still kind of got to have a Facebook when it comes to marketing and promotion, so we are still on there. You can just search Satanic Study Hall and find there. You can just search Satanic Study Hall and find us on there. We also have a goat farm community, which is Satanic Study Hall Presents the Goat Farm. You can join there. I did mention our Discord, which is our kind of premier, not premier meaning you have to pay for it, but it's where all the fun shit really goes down. We have a lot more freedom on Discord, so message us for a link. Twitter, you can hit us up on Twitter and follow us at Satanic SH, where both the S's and the H are capitalized. Instagram, same as Facebook, just search Satanic Study Hall. You will find us. We are on Twitch. We are on YouTube. We're slowly uploading our episodes to YouTube and slowly getting them shut down for copyright violations. The full assortment of everything Satanic Study Hall has done, including all of our little side vignettes, our projects, our Krampus Carol, Johnny Voorhees Life Coach, Father Al's Confessional, little things like that. Supplemental blogs and posts, which are going to be coming soon, can all be found at satanicstudyhall.com. We just launched a new little website template that's not just the podcast website. This is it's the new Belial's front and center. There's a section to listen to all the episodes. There's a section to get to know some of the rotating bench of degenerates that we have, and then we have Study Hall, like I said, with all of our supplemental material, all that kind of fun shit that may or may not make it to the podcast airways. One of the best ways to help spread some of the cool shit we're doing here at Study Hall is by telling a friend about our podcast, sharing the link on social media. We are on all major podcast platforms. And again, I'm not going to get too far into it, but if you're listening to us on Apple Music, we do ask that you leave us a review. If you can show Satanic Study Hall some love with a 5-star review and let us know your thoughts, any suggestions you have for making us a little better, we are always open to that. So we covered a shit ton today. Our foreign exchange students have saved the fucking episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. After the bell rings and everything, we'll have to trade contact information and everything. But before we cut out, is there any special thanks, shout outs, or anything like that y'all want to put out there before we wrap up?
Well, thanks for letting us sit with you, because, it was getting pretty lonely, just us two, spend time together anyway. But yeah, shout out to our friend Stefan, who unfortunately couldn't make it to class today.
Technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties. Yeah, it stopped him attending school. It's some sort of excuse like that anyway. But he's, but otherwise, shout out to Satanic Study Hall for having us, and to Bill for sitting out there, and hell Satan.
Thank you, Pete. And what about you, Patrick?
Well, basically the same. First of all, thanks for letting us sit here. It's a very comfy chair,
isn't it? Yeah, we upgraded them. When you bribe Principal Pan, anything's possible.
Nice.
That's where we went wrong.
I hope it wasn't too expensive. like bribing can be a pretty expensive deal. Basically shout out to our friends of group. Also, can I greet someone?
You can say whatever you want. Absolutely.
I'd like to greet my girlfriend, my cousin. I like to greet Toby. He's a nice guy. A bit weird.
Hi, Toby.
All right. Yeah, that's all.
Well, thank you. This has been awesome. Again, like I said, we look forward to doing this again. And I hope fucking Principal Pan lines up some more foreign exchange students, because this has turned out to be rather educational and beneficial. We are going to cut to something that a friend of Satanic Study Hall created last year for Hexennacht, and that is Simon Widdop. Simon wrote a poem called A Family of Strangers, also referred to as the Hexennacht Lament. On his YouTube, which you can find if you just search Simon Widdop on YouTube, you will find this video. In the about section, I'm going to quote, Simon says, Hexennacht is a day to remember and a day to celebrate the lives of all the victims of various witch hunts across the centuries. From Salem to Pendle, from McCarthyism to Satanic Panic. This is for you. Now, A Family of Strangers appears in Simon's second collection, The Poet from the Black Lagoon, and that's available from Plastic Brain Press at plastic-brain-press.com. You can find exactly how to pick up Poets from the Black Lagoon. And as usual, if you like what Simon's bringing to the table, look him up on social media. He is all over the place. Follow him on YouTube, Twitter, super driven, intelligent, and just fucking insightful man. And we're excited to progress our relationship. So, gentlemen, a huge Ave Satanas to you for being here. Look forward to hanging out and speaking with you again. To our listeners, we love you. We would not be here without you. I'll never get sick of saying that because it's the truth. So without further ado, here we are. Here's Simon.
This is for the victims of false accusations from foolish patriarchy, for healing the sick, for freeing themselves from superstition. As we bathe in the orange warmth of the flames, tears will fall where your binds should have. Our voices will reverberate like thunder where yours were stolen, hanging your lives proudly in the gallery of history. The ashes will flurry in black snow, marking the trail left behind. When the fires subside, you shall remain. This is for the victims of hate spewed by weasels of media, for finding solace in their flesh, for loving who they choose. Your truth shall be told forever. We will hold you high where others crushed you down. Dance and love long into the creaking dawn. Fight on for the rights you were denied. Understanding will come. The wounds will heal. When the violence ends, you shall remain. This is for the victims of pseudoscience, by peddlers of snake oil and false prophets, preyed on, exploited. We stand steadfast in enlightenment, where conspiracy once skulked, where false hope once lay as quicksand. Science and knowledge will build bridges of steel. Foggy shrouds shall be lifted. Humanity will find its way to the rational. Until that day, you shall remain. The morning star greets with no judgment, only compassion. welcomed into the warm bosom. We are a family of strangers. In all your names, our fight carries on.